Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi, David.
How are you doing?
I'm just launching the note taker right now. I get that done. By the way, see if it works today. Maybe it will. All right. Okay, so let's see where we are. David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Great, great. Okay. And you should be able to see me now, too. I had a little issue lately with my laptop and the sound not working well. So I wanted to make sure, in case I could dig out my old one. Who are we waiting for now? We have Scott, David, myself, and Jerry. Are you there? Jerry's not on yet. We'll give him another minute. Hi, everyone. I texted Jerry just now to see where he's at.
Can you hear me, Jocelyn?
Oh, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay,
Great.
I'm in
Well,
my car. So
no problem. No problem. Okay, so let's get started. I need to make sure I don't have to press record. 1 second. I believe the recording is automatic on here. No, we are automatically recording. So good afternoon, everyone. Today is May 13th, 2026. It is now 5:51 p.m. We had noticed the meeting for 5:45 p.m. of the Nahant Zoning Board of Appeals. My name is Jocelyn Campbell, and I am chair of the board. And together with me is David Walsh, also co-chair, Scott O'Frias, member, and Jerry Raphael, member. I should point out that Scott O'Frias is an associate member. Or no, an associate member. Okay. So we're ready to get started. We just came from a site visit at 148 Wilson Road, where we went to have a actual field look at the property. And so what we need to do now is to finish our deliberations for this, if possible, today. If we aren't able to, we will continue. But that is the plan for today. So does anybody want to start? Scott, David?
I'm trying to decide where to start.
Okay, but we have to think about whether we're going to, first of all, whether we feel as though there's any relief that could be granted. We know that they've asked for a variance, and we've just gone to visit the property. And so the question would be, if we were to address that issue, we realize we cannot do a special permit because last time we determined that we should make a finding to that effect, actually, there was a new nonconformity. The way we should talk about that first, the fact that the applicant has asked for a variance, and we looked at the existing conditions and but discussed the fact that it appeared that there was a new nonconformity versus any exacerbation of an existing nonconformity. Does anybody want to talk about that?
Yeah, can we clarify that why we are not dealing with a special permit, please?
Because if we have a new nonconformity, that's a variance.
Okay, and what exactly was the new nonconformity?
That was the lot coverage, which previously was under the allowed amount, and with the proposed structure would be over the allowed amount.
So was it 31% versus what's allowed is 25, correct?
Correct.
And one of the questions I had on that, is an open roof considered under the FAR?
Well, I think David, if anybody else wants to chime in here, Jerry or Scott, I think what we were looking at one point was the how the lot coverage is really defined more. It's synonymous in our code in our bylaws with building coverage, and how in fact we seem to redefine that in the HOT. And it looks like I can pull up the definitions for you so that we can talk about it as a board. Why don't I do that?
I think that's a good idea to read what the actual definitions of the FAR is under our bylaws.
Right, but remember that we're not looking at FAR because we're looking at the building coverage versus lot coverage. We don't have a definition in the Nahant bylaws necessarily for lot coverage. We do have one for building coverage, and that's kind of synonymous in a lot of places. So just give me a second, and I'll pull that up. Unless anybody else has their bylaws handy, I will do it in a minute.
I don't.
You have yours
We're
handy,
looking
David?
at lot coverage. correct?
Yes,
Okay, so the lot coverage would actually be the deck on below the roof, correct?
well, we have to look at the definition. Do you have it in front of you?
So
Do not have it in
Jocelyn,
front of me, no.
Yeah,
any deck that's under the 24 inches, is that considered lot coverage?
that's what we need to look at. We need to look at that exactly.
Because that terminology is confusing. I mean, everybody can interpret that different ways, you know?
Mm-hmm. Right. So, just give me a second here to locate that.
I think it's on page
Let's see.
13 and 14.
Do you have it, Scott, handy?
Am I looking? I'm at the definitions. What are we looking at? Coverage is not actually defined.
Do you look at building coverage, Scott?
Building coverage is not. Building coverage is defined as the building area expressed as a percent of the total lot area. So I guess we'd have to look at the total lot area to figure out what that entails.
And take a look at building area as well.
Yeah.
If you want to share your screen, so we can do
Yes.
that, because otherwise I'm going to have to, because I'm at my home computer, not my work computer where I have everything handy. So it'd be easier for me if you could share your screen. You try and do that?
How does that look? Can you see my screen?
Not yet.
It
Let me double check the sharing on this.
says that it says I'm screen sharing. Can everyone see
Okay,
it?
I can see it now. Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we go up to building coverage, building area right here, it says building coverage is defined as the building area as a percentage of total lot area.
And then your building area is
It doesn't have an actual building area is the aggregate of the maximum horizontal cross section of all buildings and all buildings are lot exclusive of cornices, eaves, gutters, chimneys, and all unroofed steps, porches, balconies, terrace, patios, or decks, which at any point may have a floor height of 2 feet or more above ground level.
okay.
So that means my understanding of that means that the building area would be anything 2 feet or more.
Okay. And so what I wish I knew was whether the civil engineer's figures included, the area, the whole porch, which I thought it did, or if it included only that portion that was going to be over 2 feet.
Yeah.
And so when he was calculating the building area.
Yeah, because anything.
So would that mean,
Oh, go ahead, Jerry.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Now, I said, would that mean that the portion of the deck going up the hill, starting from where the 2-foot stake was, from there up to the top of the hill where at the end of the house, would not be considered deck?
Only if it were unroofed. Now you see, because the two sides on the plan that we did see look like they're going to have a roof over them. That's my reading of it. If anyone chime in anytime and tell me if I'm wrong. But it looks, members only, that from this definition B, it says unroofed steps, porches, and balconies. So certainly the balcony, the patio on the street side would not be included. But it doesn't look, it didn't look to me like the engineer included that in the figures.
So they only have the deck on the right, the left, and the front. The back doesn't have a roof on it.
Right, so only the deck on either side would
Right,
be,
left, and front, yeah.
not the front, because the front's a patio, it's gonna be street level.
Yeah, but the existing roof is there.
Oh, okay,
So that's an extend out On the plan, it shows it extending out like another 2 feet, but
Okay. So you're saying, Jerry, just the only part that wouldn't be included would be the water side, the back of the house.
correct. The back of the house and that big deck. They're
Okay.
not putting anything over that. If you look at the plan, it doesn't show it. Just shows it from that staircase all the way around to the corner of the house somewhere. It stops
Mm-hmm.
on the back side.
Okay. So let's just assume that the measurements provided to us by the civil engineer are correct, and that we are at 31% versus the 25% that's required. I think it's fair to make that assumption. And he did provide his calculations previously, which we all look at. Does everybody agree with that assumption?
The assumption that it was before it was conforming and now the proposed it's non-conforming?
That could be it. Could be the assumption. Right, that's a new conformity.
Scott, can you read the section that you read again? I'm trying to understand this 2-foot elevation thing.
So the definitions under the bylaws of the building area is the aggregate of the maximum horizontal cross-sectional area of all buildings on a lot, exclusive of cornices, eaves, gutters, and chimneys. And then this is the part you want is B, all unroofed steps, porches, balconies, terraces, patios, or deck, which at any point may have a floor height of 2 feet or more above ground level. And what Jocelyn said was that because there's a roof on the proposal, this is not applicable to because it is a roofed.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Right. So that being said, if we go back to the figures that the civil engineer had determined, which were the 31%, then I think I would bring a motion to say that, to make a determination that we have a new nonconformity with those figures in terms of lot coverage, according to our bylaws.
I'd agree with that.
So you second the motion?
I second the motion, yeah. Based solely on the figures provided.
Any discussion on the motion?
No.
All in favor?
Scott Fries,
David Walsh, aye.
David Walsh, aye. Scott Fries, aye.
Gerardo Raphael, aye.
And Jocelyn Campbell, aye. All right. So we've just made a finding that the lot coverage increase is a new nonconformity. So now we know that we cannot issue a special permit even if we wanted to, if we could provide such relief, even if we decided to provide such relief. So now we are looking at only a variance to provide any relief if it applies to this matter, and we have to discuss that. So in order to get to the variance piece, the things we have to look at are, owing to the circumstances related to the soil conditions, shape, or topography of such land or structures, and especially affecting such land or structures, but not affecting generally the zoning district in which it is located, the literal enforcement of the provisions of the ordinance or bylaw would involve substantial hardship, financial or otherwise, to the petitioner or appellant, and that the desirable relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of such ordinance or bylaw. So you want to take it one step at a time in terms of, are there any circumstances related to the soil, conditions, shape, or topography? Which topography includes elevation.
Okay. So can we deal with topography?
Okay.
Does the effect that this property is lower than the property on either side of it, does that justify that it is has its own problem, its own issues with topography?
That's a good question. How does everybody feel about that?
So sorry, Dave, can you repeat the last part of that?
Okay, so I'm wondering, since we were out there and we could see that the property that we are dealing with, 148, is lower at the ocean end than the properties on either side of it, does that fall under the issue of topography as a for the variances?
Good question.
I mean, there's a couple ways. I mean, one could argue that all of the properties all, slant downhill towards the ocean along the whole road. But if one is lower than the others, is that a factor
I guess
for us
that
to consider?
I agree, because I guess that considers it, if you're the lowest, that's your unique nature of your house, that you are the lowest point
Right.
where you're at like the basin of all the things. So everything would run off to you. So you have the unique nature of all of runoff going down to you at the bottom, as opposed to whether you're all slanted, there's not one way or the other where it makes you unique. I think that's a good point.
Right.
Is it unique enough to?
It's unique.
I think there are probably other lots along that street somewhere where they might be low. I don't know how much lower, but I don't know. I just because I eyeballed it when I drove by. It's hard to tell like that, but it does appear lower than the others. We just went to the property and we saw it. So that's the
No,
first step
it's
in the
definitely
findings. Do we
lower.
want to make a finding to that effect? Okay. Does anybody want to bring a motion to make a finding about the elevation?
I'll make
Yeah,
a motion.
I'll make a motion that. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that the elevation is lower than either right and left of the properties beside it.
Okay. Anybody want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Seconded by David Walsh. And any discussion on the motion?
So I think that makes it unique in its own way, because everything from the right and the left is all draining on their property and draining out to the ocean. So there's no water that could be collected on the right and left side. It just goes onto their property because their elevation's that much lower. So they're getting all the water on all the storms.
I tend to agree with Jerry on that, because it's not like it's just like if you go on Wilson Road off the main road, it's just a hill straight down, then it goes all the way down to Nahant Road, as opposed to here, it's off the road, so it doesn't go straight flat hill off, because it's coming from both different ends. So I think it's unique in that end, where it's not like a straight slanting down the hill to the left, so they can't run off to the left and to the left all the way down to, say, Tides and Nahant Road. So I do think it's unique in that nature.
So any water that comes from the right and left goes onto this particular property and runs off off the backside of that ocean edge seawall. It collects most of the water for the neighborhood, and it drains through their property. Either it drains through the grass or It washes up. Even if the water comes up and over, it's going to come up. Their elevation on each side, the seawalls are a lot higher than that one in particular seawall, so it drains from that particular spot.
Okay, so Jerry, could you clarify what your motion was regarding the
My
circumstances
motion
of the law?
determined that the elevation on 148 Wilson Road is a lot lower than the neighbors, the right and left side. The adjacent
And
neighbors.
okay, so it's lower
And
than the adjacent neighbors.
yeah, and it everything from their side, when the water comes over, it goes onto this particular property and drains through their property because their seawalls are higher on the right and the left by
Okay.
quite a bit.
Okay, so let's take a vote on that motion.
They,
And
they take the brunt of the ocean when it comes over, and they take a brunt when there's a lot of rain coming down. Right and left, everything drains to their property.
all right, so all in favor of that motion? Jerry, all in favor?
Yes, I'm in favor. Gerardo Raphael, favor.
Yep, David Walsh, yes.
Scott Fryas, aye.
Okay, and Jocelyn Campbell, aye. Okay, so the next step in the question is whether a literal enforcement of the zoning bylaws would involve a hardship and so in other words, denying this relief, would it involve a hardship? And the case law tells us there has to be a nexus between the hardship and the work that they want to do on the property. It sounds like, this question we have to ask and discuss right now.
Okay, you kind of broke up on that one.
Okay, I'll bring
you,
I'll bring a motion. The motion is to determine whether a literal enforcement of the zoning bylaws would involve a hardship, financial or otherwise, so that if the relief was granted, that there would be a substantial detriment to public good if relief was granted. So we want to say basically, we want to ask ourselves, if there's a little enforcement, does it involve a hardship, and is that hardship related to the request for relief, related to the construction project? And then the next step really is, can relief be granted without detriment to the public good? So we have to discuss the hardship, whether it's sufficient, whether it's related, and if the relief can be granted without detriment to the public good or without nullifying the intent of the bylaws. So I bring that motion. Does anybody want to second it? A motion to make a determination one way or another regarding those issues.
I'll second the motion for the purpose of discussion.
Okay. So discussion on the motion. If we literally deny the relief, does it create a hardship for these homeowners?
Well, he's trying to get the water away from his house, so with the roof, it pushes it away from the house about 6 feet into the grass area, so it drains, and it's drains evenly throughout the grass area. So that would help his stormwater management, flooding the basement on a rainstorm, and raising the elevation of the deck in the back could help him on the seawall when the water comes over. It could it could break the wave and help them, so the water's not getting into the basement as much as it is as of right now due to the
So you're
elevation.
arguing, Jerry, that it would be a hardship if we denied the relief?
Hmm. I believe that would be a hardship.
Anybody else want to, let's take it to that, really, I guess, into three different parts here. That'd be the first part, is whether or not this is a hardship. David and Jerry, did you have any, David and Scott, did you have any position on that?
I think in regards of in the back, I can definitely see a hardship with the splash over and the necessity to make sure that there's no flooding in a basement. That's a substantial hardship of having flooding in a basement. I would agree with Cherry on that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that also. That would be a hardship.
And is there a nexus or a relationship between the work that's going to be done, the extended roofs and the work on the deck on the ocean side? Are those things related to the hardship?
Yeah,
I guess they are.
the roof would protect it. The roof's going to shed the water away from the house, so it's not directly going into the ground closer to the foundation wall. So it sheds it into the grass area, so it gives it more drainage area for it to filter through.
And
surface
so you
water.
think this will make a difference with where the sandbags were and
So
where
right
the
now,
other side of the house?
right now it's Asian. I think the roof would help him direct the water and disperse evenly away from his house, so he's not getting the water into the basement as he's trying to resolve a lot of issues.
Okay. So if we all agree that there's a hardship there and that, you know, there's a nexus between the work that's requested, the project that's been requested, and the relief that's been requested, do we think that, does everybody want to talk about the second part of that motion, which is may relief be granted without detriment to the public good? And I should say, without nullifying the intent of the bylaw. Why don't we take a look at the
John,
Go ahead, David.
I was just saying, have we established that the water, the runoff from the roof, as the roof exists now, would be a hardship?
What I thought we were discussing was whether denying the relief under the requirements for a variance would be a hardship, and that is there a relationship between that hardship and the project that's being built. And I think what's come out of the conversation, I thought, and tell me if I'm wrong, was that because the porch roof would bring water away from the house and have it drain further from the house, that it would help the situation with the water in the on the water side of the house, with it coming into the house as much, and because it looks like there's flooding throughout there. I don't know. That's a good question. Whether a literal enforcement involves a hardship, and whether relief can be granted without detriment to the public good, or nullifying the intent of the bylaws. That's where we are now. So we said we definitely determined there was a hardship, I think. I thought we did. We made that determination. And then also we talked about it anyway. The next step was whether the construction suggested would, is connected to that hardship. And I think what Jerry suggested is it was. We haven't voted on that yet.
Yeah. Okay, I guess the question then becomes what is the literal enforcement of the bylaw? Because we have to decide at a variance whether the literal interpretation and enforcement of the bylaw would not be good for our decision. So I guess what is the literal enforcement of the bylaw? That part I don't understand.
Well, if there's a literal enforcement, we deny relief. Because the purpose of the variance is to perhaps loosen dimensional requirements, to to give relief where it's needed. It's not meant to be. We very rarely grant variances. We have in the past, but very rarely. And so the reasoning has to be, we have to go through these steps and make sure if we were to do it, that we meet all the requirements. So that's what we're talking about now, trying to figure out whether or not we've already had the discussion about the hardship, whether it's related to the construction that's being suggested. So the next thing really is, again, whether that little enforcement it would create that hardship or continue it, I guess. And whether relief can be granted without detriment to the public good. And Scott, Jerry, David, anybody want to add to that?
But we got to determine right now if
I know it's hard, but here's where we are. It says, I was looking at this thing from chapter 48, section 9. So the variance is supposed to be used to authorize an otherwise prohibited use or loosen dimensional requirements otherwise applicable to a structure. It's used sparingly, but only when the prerequisites have been met. It sounds like from the discussion, we've had a couple of them. Just want to know how everybody feels about the next step, which would have been to, regarding, obviously, whether there's a detriment to the public. And I think, I'm just going to put it out there to begin that discussion, is when you look at possible detriment to the public, if you look at the side, of each of that house, this particular porch is within the setback. It doesn't get into the setback on the side. I know we had that overall issue with the coverage, but we don't see called block coverage on our dimensional plan, but dimensional sheet, but it's actually building coverage. We don't see any issues with setbacks there on either side.
And I don't see any view issues either, meaning that with that roof line's way lower than the neighbor's elevation of his deck. And on the right-hand side and left-hand side, seems like that the roof line on that particular unit at 148 is a lot lower than the neighbors on adjacent them on the right and the left. So I don't see it being a distraction on view because they'll still be able to see over because they're in like a pit compared to the adjacent neighbors.
Okay.
So we have the setbacks. I think we don't have a view issue. The lot coverage is over by 6 points to meet. I mean, I feel that, project is not too far out of reach here.
Okay, so are you talking about in terms of you think that that's our discussion regarding it not being detrimental to the public good when we look at those setbacks?
Yeah, I mean, he's within the setbacks. He not. He doesn't have a view discrepancy. The neighbors are a lot higher than them. They can see right over their house,
Okay, so
even
let's
if they
talk about
build a roof.
the intent of the bylaws. Can you go on your share and go back to the intent of the bylaw, to the beginning of the bylaws?
Which part of the bylaws I'll share?
Right in the beginning.
All right, 1 second. I'm talking about purpose and intent of the use regulations or section 4, section 103, the purpose of the bylaws?
Yes, that's it. Try that one. I don't have it in front of me. But.
All right, let me see. Hold on, let me share. 1 second.
Yeah, one thing you want to go up. It's the general up for higher. Like you want to go to the 103, 1.03.
103. Here we go. Purpose: promote health, welfare, safety, and convenience of the inhabitant town. I guess to Jerry's point, what he was saying is that right here in section 103A, it says to facilitate the adequate provision of transportation, water, sewage, drainage, schools, parks, open space. So it goes to the drainage aspect of what he was saying, and also the most appropriate use of land throughout the town.
Okay. So that's where we are. Does anyone think that we need to discuss that any further regarding the issues we're looking at now, based upon the determinations we made so far?
Johnson, I can't. Sorry, can you tilt your when you tilt your head, it kind of mutes off a little bit, so you can hear what you're saying.
Sorry, Scott. Okay, so we need to discuss or finalize the discussions regarding, whether a little enforcement creates this hardship and whether relief may be granted without detriment to the public good, and without nullifying the intent of the bylaws.
Jocelyn, let me ask a different question, a different approach to this. If the roof that they're on from both sides, if you took on both sides and you reduced the outreach by 6 inches, would we even be in this position at all?
I don't know. We'd have to, recalculate the figures because.
Yeah.
if the
I mean,
porch
if
narrower, is what you're saying?
If they
but I
downsize the deck, they would definitely be able to build this without us because their margins are very small.
right, that's what I'm saying. If you
They
took
still need, you
6
guys, they
inches
still,
off each side of it,
Hmm.
what is the square footage that it would be reduced by?
well, I kind of feel like that ship has sailed because we already
Yeah,
had, we already got all the figures. I think
yeah.
we
The
making it
ship
on
has sailed. Yeah, you're right, Jocelyn, because we're working on the drawings that they submitted to us.
right.
And what they
And
submitted to us is six
Okay,
decimal points over what we are here all trying to.
But I agree with you, David, that if in fact this came to us, for this just as an example, and there was no new nonconformity, like you're pointing out, then the relief would have been different. The type of relief that we would have to see if we can do would be different. It would be a special permit, which is a lot easier to grant, obviously, if we were to grant it, than a variance. Um, but for purposes of a variance, I think we need to, kind of review the determination that we made regarding the hardship. I think that's, rehash it out, but just kind of make that part of the motion. We need to discuss whether, how does everybody feel? Do we feel as though there's a detriment to the public good here? Let's start that question. That's the next one we have to answer. Does anyone feel as though this project would be a detriment to the public good?
No, I don't think so. I'm sorry, to the public good, you said?
Yes.
Oh,
That's the
sorry
first
about
part.
that.
That's things we have to talk about because we already discussed
Yeah.
the hardship, the construction, whether relief can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the bylaw. It seems like the bylaw has some options there because it talks about light and air. I mean, as far as the public good is concerned, he's within the setbacks that we all just have as a town. So other than that, and the small percentage that he's over on his, building coverage,
Land
slash lot coverage,
land coverage.
yeah, seems to me like that. To me, it's minimal, de minimis, and I don't see the problem. But we have some opposition here, so we need to really make sure that everybody reviews and considers those issues. Um, and I'm still thinking about it myself as well. So in terms of, you know, detriment to the public good, does anyone feel as though this project would be a detriment to the public good?
I don't see it being detrimental to the public good.
I don't either. They're not going to lose light. They're not going to. I don't even think that you're going to be able to see the roof from the street. That's the elevation of that building so low. So it's not going to block anybody's view or take any sunshine away from them. That's for sure.
Scott, how do you feel about that question?
I tend to agree with Jerry and David, but I would note that in general, there's been opposition to the project in general. So that would be considered there's been expressed opposition to their own good, and they be considered part of the public. So I do think that needs to be weighed into our consideration. I don't know if that over is over persuasive on the overall public good of Nahant, but I think that's something that needs to be factored in the deliberations about that there were two oppositions of directly abutting neighbors. But that being said, I think that the overwhelming detriment to public good um, is not. It doesn't meet that merit.
I agree with you.
So we have the two neighbors on either side that are opposing this matter, and they're the ones that are most affected by it.
I agree with Scott on that also.
It's kind of interesting that we had so many other neighbors that were in support. But the people right next to it were opposing it. Okay, so why don't I make a motion? Somebody has to make it. Does anyone want to make the motion? Generally, I don't make motions. Regarding that particular problem, that make a motion that make a finding, a motion for a finding that the project as presented would not be a detriment to the public good in general. Is that fair enough?
I'll make a motion to that finding.
Okay. So I'll second that. Is there any discussion on that point?
I guess just my discussion would be to rephrase the actual wording of the motions that to align with the variance thing is that we move that the relief requested by the owners may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good, without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent and purpose of the bylaw. I think we need to state that for the motion.
Really specific? Okay.
Yep.
And so, since you brought that language up in full, and I seconded the first motion, I'll second that for you as well. And David, you want to table your motion in favor of Scott's motion because of the language?
I will take I'll take Scott's interpretation of it as he said it.
Okay.
Because I think that is what I'm meaning to say. So let's take what his words were.
Okay. And is there any further discussion on that motion? All in favor?
David Walsh, aye.
Scott Alfrias, aye.
Jerry?
Sorry. In favor. I'm
Okay.
hello?
And Joseph Kim. We got you, Jerry. We heard you. Okay. So the last question is, and Scott, did you include in that finding, I can't remember just a minute ago, too. I wrote some of it down, but I didn't get all of it. Did you include in that finding the derogating from the intent of the purpose of the bylaw? You did. I remember now.
Yes, I did.
So you made that finding. So we made a finding regarding the hardship. We made a finding regarding, first of all, we made a finding regarding the topography and the elevation. And we made a finding regarding the hardship. We made a finding regarding the nexus between the hardship and the project as proposed. And then we made a finding that there would be no detriment to the public good and that it would not be a substantial detriment to the public good without nullifying or substantially derogating from the intent or purpose of the ordinance or bylaw. So at this point, I think we need to decide if we're going to, if everybody's in favor of granting a variance, we need to make a motion for that. Anyone want to bring a motion for that purpose? I mean, an option for us if we decide not to do that. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I know.
Jocelyn, you broke up on that last thing you were saying.
I was just trying to get the meeting moving along here. We can either make a motion to grant a variance or deny a variance, or we can continue this matter, and think about it some more if we're not sure. So I need to know how everybody feels about that, and if there's anyone who wants to bring a motion.
Based upon the findings that we have already made, I will make a motion to grant the variance.
I second that. Jerry Raphael.
Any discussion on the motion?
What, I guess, if we vote to grant the variances just as was submitted, is there any limitations on what we're granting, or just, I guess, logistically speaking, if the variance is granted, what does that look like?
We're
Go ahead, Dave.
granting what's on the
Right. I think what Jerry's saying is that if we grant the variance, then we can add some conditions, any conditions that you feel might be appropriate to add. Sometimes we add things such as, must be built as the plans that were proposed, per the plans that were proposed. And also, cannot become a dwelling.
correct.
That porch area may not become living area. It may not be enclosed.
Yeah, can't enclosed. May not be enclosed. Must be the plan that was submitted to us on the date that was submitted on the plan, and it cannot be enclosed. Absolutely.
Right.
I think those are two important factors for sure.
I mean, one of the things that the neighbors pointed out was that in the area, there's been a lot of people, creeping up with the building, doing things that before any building inspector sees it or what have you, because we don't have a small town. We don't have somebody riding around looking to see, is that something that's been permitted or not? Is it enforceable? We don't have people doing that, so we don't always know. And that's my understanding. I'm just a volunteer, but people don't always know. But if we make it clear that they cannot enclose that porch, then that's the condition that will stay with the property. Do you think that's something that you? Jerry, could you say that again? We couldn't hear that part.
Joshua, would that be right on the booking page on the when they register this particular meeting?
Yes.
Or
It'd be in our decision, Jerry. Yeah.
variance, it would be on the registry of deeds, correct? So they could not enclose it. They would, have to follow with what's in. Okay, thank you.
Exactly. It would be recorded at the registry of deeds. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there'd be no chance for that to happen in the future. Okay. Is there any more discussion on the motion?
None.
And okay, Scott, did you want to add those conditions? I think we all would agree if you did.
I would like to, yes.
Okay. So we'll modify the motion to include those conditions that we talked about now.
To the extent we are allowed to impose those conditions per the second paragraph of section 907 that states the Board of Appeals may impose conditions, safeguards, and limitations on a variance.
Okay, very good. All right, so all in favor of the motion?
David Walsh, aye.
Jerry Raphael, aye.
Scott Frias, aye.
Johnson Campbell, aye. Okay, so we have 4 out of 4. We have a unanimous decision. And the variance will be granted or has been granted. And we will issue the decision, and the variance will include the conditions that the porch may not be enclosed, and the porches and repairs or what have you to the water side of the house, what was on the plans everything has to be built per plans that were provided to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Anything else anybody can think of?
Correct.
All right. Okay, that's it.
Nope.
right, guys,
Okay,
we'll get
I'll
that
make a motion to adjourn.
motion to adjourn. And
I'll second it.
Jerry Raphael. All right, thank you very much. Good
Thank
night.
you very much, Jocelyn, for your
Take
help.
care.
Appreciate it.